I'm going to call the Fremont School Board meeting to order for May 13th, beginning at about 6:32. I would like to honor the fallen police officer from Brentwood with a salute to the flag, if that's it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we start with a roll call, please? Ryan here.
Grace here.
And Keen here.
Kid here?
All here.
Okay. Any agenda revisions? I don't have any either. Correspondence. I have a couple of emails that I'll put into public input about the foreign language teacher that a couple of parents sent to me. I also have the letter from the selectmen confirming that they'll meet with us as a joint board on June 10th at 6:30 as part of our school board meeting. I also have a letter from the auditor that is sent to the school board and the budget committee stating that there is no RSA requiring an audit to be done within 120 days from the end of the fiscal year. Then it went to both, I think, because it says school board and budget committee. I'm assuming they mailed it to the budget committee as well.
That's a good question.
It's not really CC, so.
What day did it come in
Yeah, I
on?
think we need to give that to,
Did it come in today?
To Greg.
what's that?
What day did it come in on?
The letter, I just got it today. I think it must have come in today.
I'm just looking for anything.
Yeah, it doesn't look necessarily like they sent it to both
I know, I have a feeling that it might not have CC.
I didn't forward it out, they did, so. I did not forward it out if they did.
Okay.
Actually, if Sue scanned it and sent it to you, then you could send it out.
It doesn't explain why it's.
Do you want to just scan it and email it
And
to
I
Greg?
can do that. It does say that.
One step at a time.
Yeah. Do any other correspondence? Okay, let's jump right to approval of minutes. Does anybody have any minutes?
No, I didn't.
I had one minor thing.
Greg, I'll do that before I go home.
That's fine.
But it is a hard copy.
Thank you. Do you need it to scan? Because I don't need this. You can keep it in the file here if you want.
If you want me to.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank
That way
you.
you'll have it. You had one thing,
I
Shannon?
did, under F, professional is missing its O, and it was Laura Coyle for the C.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I just had, there's formatting issues, Sue, but I don't know if that's because of the way it gets sent.
Yeah, I noticed it's a little,
It's like,
goofy
yeah,
up
there's a
here.
little bit of funny stuff. It's almost on every page, there's something weird about the way it's formatted.
it might be my word versus the PC word, I
Right.
think.
Could be.
We get that open office?
I have Neo Office or something, oh, I could try that. I have a Mac and you guys have PC, so it might be.
I had a couple things. On section 11, Roman numeral 11, action items, under A for discussion of fiscal year 15 budget.
Yep.
The third paragraph down, it said, made a motion to fully fund the $66,654.80.
Okay.
And then, that same line, it says budget recommendations, out of the leftover money. I'm hoping that we can add, and it's up to the board, and if Betsy thinks it's okay, to put a parentheses clarification. The leftover money would be regular ed salaries and benefits savings of $93,832.24.
That's just a clarification, that's certainly.
Yeah, I just want it in like
Okay.
parentheses so that we know where that, because leftover money sounds funny.
Okay.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
So do you need me to tell you what that said again?
Yeah, regular ed salary.
Regular ed salaries and benefits.
Yep.
Savings of $93,832.24.
Okay, thanks.
And then,
There's a double dollar sign.
I see that, yeah.
I didn't know that.
in in section D, foreign language program proposal, on the I think it's the third paragraph, it's right at the top of that next page. It says projected cost for an in-school Spanish program fiscal year 14-15 totaled $77,981.75.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure that stated includes salary, benefits, and supplies, textbooks, and 25 iPads. Because that's
Okay.
not just the teacher's salary,
That's a
that's
full program.
right.
Okay.
It's a full program. In-school program, yeah.
And then the last line of that paragraph where it says some items could be paid for from the Frost funds.
Yeah.
I would change that to say it was asked as to whether some items could be paid for
Okay.
from the Frost fund. We really didn't decide
Okay.
that. Um, And then if you go down two more paragraphs, the third one starting with Mr., I'm not even gonna try to say the poor man's name. Chiaccia.
No, kayakia.
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 It's not the
Yeah.
Italian way. The Italian would be kayakia.
I just started saying kayakia.
Okay, that paragraph.
Kayakia.
She was right, oh, kayakia.
The third line down, it says Ms. Keen said the school philosophy, I think it should say the school board philosophy.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And the very last line of that same paragraph, I think it probably should say, it was suggested that perhaps there could be a way to place the program in RTI for students who qualify.
Okay.
Announcing your arrival. Does anybody else have anything
I have
else?
just one question. In discussion of fiscal year 15 budget, the last paragraph, the second last paragraph says the rest, 25,000 wireless and 1,500 website maintenance would be taken from the salary line. Was the wireless being taken out of the REAP grant, or was that for something else?
Where are you?
Oh, action item 11, discussion of fiscal,
No, it was we were talking about the 15 budget. The wireless was in the 15 budget, so we would
Right.
took that
all right,
out of the 15 budget.
And it's only $1,500 for the
Yeah.
website, not 15,000.
Right.
1,500, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the 25,000 for the wireless, we took that out of the.
That was money budgeted for FY15 that we moved to use for the lines that were cut.
All right,
25,000, take it.
Yeah,
I thought we were gonna use the REAP money to pay for the.
this year.
We
We
did this year.
We did that in the FY14
Yeah,
budget,
yes, we did.
But there was 20,000 cuts from the
tech lines,
Right.
set line,
I see,
for
okay. I
FY15.
get it.
right?
I get it, all right.
So I guess if people want to change this.
Motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, public input on agenda items. I do have two emails from parents. One is from Jody Donahue, and she's writing in support of the foreign language teacher at Ellis for 2014-15. She understands that part of the challenge may be finding time to fit this into the schedule for the students, and she feels that it's important to introduce our middle school students to foreign language in some capacity as soon as possible, so that they have experience when they reach high school to stay on track with students from other towns. I hope that she hopes that we can find a way to make it work for Ellis, and she thanked us for all of our continued support for our school teachers and children. And then I have another one from Tyrell, I think she says her name Albo, A-L-B-A-U-G-H, and Tom Fontana that just wanted to lend their support for foreign language and world cultures to be part of the curriculum, even if it's only as a club for now. And ideally, the subjects would be open to all students at the school, not just the older grades. So those are the two emails I had, and then is there anybody from the audience that has filled out the, or it doesn't matter if you filled it out, there's only 3 of you. Does anybody want to speak, or you can just raise your hand? Angela?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Angela O'Connell, Bristol Road. Thank you for, again, for putting the packets out. I'm glad to say I'm in here in person this week, so I appreciate the ability to comment and be a part of them even when I'm not here, so thank you again for that. So just two quick comments I had. One was on the foreign language, of course. I've expressed before my support of it, and I've seen some different things that have been going around about how to incorporate it. I know that one of the challenges is really the scheduling piece of it, and as we were talking, I think you need a degree in statistics to figure out the scheduling of all the difference and so forth. The one thing that I would like to recommend is that, as a minimum, 7th and 8th graders, again, is really lend my support towards that in the sense that really trying to get the students prepared. And I know that one of the big challenges is the scheduling piece of it. But even if, I'm thinking that even if we had to add an extra block or an extra class to that, I wonder, is that more like what high school would be anyways? Is that more like what maybe the middle school, 7th and 8th grade is at the other schools that feed into Sanborn? So some questions I have around that. And then also, I know there was some discussion about a loss of teaching time, if you will, for some of the other grades, if we have to make them, or other blocks or courses, if we need to make them a little shorter. And my question is, and I don't know this, but what is the ideal time for the student to be in one subject, or be sitting in one chair and engaged? I know for adults, they say no more than 90 minutes, so what is that ideal time for a student? So could they be getting just as much, if you will, out of that block if the block is a little bit shorter? So that was some comments around that. Really would like to support it at minimum for 7th and 8th, and then of course, knowing that everyone learns even faster lots of times when they're younger. It's been proven. The other thing I wanted to mention or touch on was an unanticipated fund balance priorities list. It was wonderful to see this. I know that there's been a number of years, because things have been so tight, that we've really kind of scaled back and prioritized different things, making what we needed for the kids in the school first and foremost. And some of the things, kind of upkeep has been kind of put to the wayside, if you will, to meet those minimum requirements. It comes to a point where we do need to continue to support those, so I was glad to see this very much, this list. And I know there's some discussion about, should we turn back some of the money from the GMR, from the high school and so forth, or how should we leverage that? I also would like to say that I think for a number of years that the GMR has continued to increase, or the cost of the proportion that's the Sanborn of the budget has continued to increase. Therefore, the portion of the Ellis budget has continued to decrease. So therefore, it's really, it's been kind of lopsided a little bit. So we've, I believe a lot of people in town see the total number, and they don't understand the difference possibly between the two. And because of that, I feel like Ellis has kind of subsidized, if you will, the high school. And so it really needs some support. So I really encourage you to not spend frivolously, and if there's money to be turned back, by all means, but make sure the investments are made for the best return on investment for both the building, the students, and the education. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had the two same points, but maybe a slightly different, similar but slightly different take. On the unanticipated fund balance priorities, I was also really excited to see that, particularly the science lab aspect of that, as we consider NEASC a possibility becoming, pursuing that accreditation, as we look to perhaps revisiting the co-op possibility. Having the science lab is going to be a piece of that, but also, the maintenance and keeping up the building and investing in the building and not allowing things to deteriorate and spreading things out over years. For all of those reasons, I wholeheartedly support using the funds that were requested to invest in our building. And I think looking at the list, you could really see that it was very it was made with a lot of thought to being fiscally conservative as possible, and really asking only for what the need was as opposed to the want. So I hope that will be a consideration. And then I also wanted to speak about the foreign language. I'm probably a broken record because I've been saying this for the past several meetings, but I definitely support it. I do understand the scheduling piece is a challenge. my sister teaches middle school math in Wisconsin, and I was talking to her this weekend, and they're struggling the same way we are. They're a small school, and she, you know, it's a private school, but still they're struggling with the same things in terms of adjusting schedules and how to balance it and how to figure it out. And does that mean you need to hire a new person or whatever? So I think it's not unique to us. It's a challenge, but I think, you know, as a community and as a school board and as a district, we just have to decide, is this a priority? And, you know, looking at not just, again, towns in New Hampshire, but across the country, and going to college and competing for jobs, and even just, you know, surviving in a country where, you know, English may not even be the primary spoken language in 20, 30 years. I think we're doing a disservice to our students to not provide them with that opportunity as early as we can. And the one other thing I wanted to mention on that is, I know that, you know, in the past meetings we've looked at the enrollment in kindergarten and whether that may go up and whether we may need to hire an additional kindergarten teacher to make sure, you know, I know that we felt comfortable with the numbers where they were maybe a meeting ago or 2 meetings ago, or the administration felt comfortable with it. But if that does go up, or if we feel like looking at the mix of kids that we really do need a third classroom, I would not want it to be an either or with the foreign language and the kindergarten teacher. I think, you know, with the amount that came back from the GMR that was going to be put into like a contingency fund, I know the board has said we'll always, you know, if there's a need for an additional classroom, we'll make that happen. So I just wanted to mention that just because I wouldn't want our first year students coming into kindergarten to have any, you know, negative impact as a result of, you know, implementing the foreign language. And I know that everything's a juggling act when it comes to budgeting and figuring all of that out. So that's all. Thank you.
Hey everybody, Jeff Rowell, Sandown Road. Welcome to the new member.
Thank you.
Know everybody else I never saw. Yeah, I just saw this on the agenda. I wanted to come and support the foreign language decision for the school. I know it's been a long-term goal of the district. It's in the strategic plan. So, you know, I understand the scheduling concerns and certainly don't want to see us detract from anything else, but I know before I was even on the board, we provided foreign language instruction at some level, I think to 7th and 8th grade, and we might even still have textbooks somewhere inside the building that can be used for that. I really don't favor the after-school program because I think a lot of kids wouldn't be able to participate in that. And I feel if we really have the goal of being the best school in the state, that this should be something that we give to our kids. So I think you guys all understand the disadvantage that our students coming out have when they go over to Sanborn or wherever they go. And the kids that they're competing against already have that instruction. It puts us that much more behind them. And I think if they did have it, it would give them more flexibility in the later grades for course selection, you know, and open their schedules up a little bit. And then the list, the wish list there, it seems like there's some deferred maintenance on there. I would support us funding, you know, take care of that stuff. By definition, it's not a good thing to have deferred maintenance. So if there's money left over, that's money that the townspeople have given the district. So I think they're looking to you guys to use your best judgment on that, and I certainly support putting it towards the building and keeping things in good condition there. So that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, information items, administration reports. Superintendent's report.
I have one thing I wanted to add. The website committee, at this point, we're looking at a soft opening of the website to the staff and maybe the parents and, of course, the board around June 1st. And we can send that out to the parents of the Alert Now system. It'll be the prototype. There will still be problems with it. We're going to have a Google Doc that goes with it so that people can get on and make their comments. And then we will come together for 2 more meetings, clean it up, and open it up in July. So, that, I think, is the only thing I would add.
Thank you for that website. I know I'm not supposed to talk now, but I didn't think of it earlier and I appreciate it, so thank you.
So, Betsy, I had one question. It was about your timeline at the end. You have quarterly focus schools meeting. And I was gonna, it reminded me to ask, is there a report that we've received that tells us what we're supposed to be doing for that? I know we were qualified as or we were, designated a focus school.
Right.
So is there a plan that they gave us?
Absolutely. There's a
There
whole
is.
pile of stuff that has been going on, including a website where data is entered on all of the assessments, and this is being monitored at the state level. Our hope is that Friday, because the Friday, the day after our quarterly meeting, we will find out whether or not we're still a focus school.
Okay.
And we're hoping we're not. So, we'll see.
So this quarterly focus school meeting is not as statewide, all the focus schools are getting together?
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not for our school specifically?
No, for specifically, no. But we
Okay.
do, but we are required to be there.
Okay.
And they provide professional development. They talk about, what they're doing is trying to infuse the schools that are in this category with certain skills. And they offer workshops during the day. And then there's some general talking about the federal government, where focus schools are, the waiver and all of that. In the meantime, John has regular meetings with a state representative who comes down, reviews the data, looks at how things are going. So there is progress being made. Stephanie Allen, remember, we hired as the data person, is inputting data into the InterStar system that is taking care of watching our progress. Progress monitoring is going on. So there's a lot going on with it.
Okay, so is there a report for the board to see what the state gave us as, so we know what it all means? What it means for us to be a focus school, or is it
Well,
really just in?
We've educated you about what it means to be a focus school. You know, that's the 10% gap between, yeah.
Right, when we had focus monitoring, and they gave us a book.
Focus
They told
monitoring
us
is a different
what
thing,
it was, what we had to do as a school
Mhm.
to improve and step out of it.
Correct.
There's nothing like that.
The
available.
plan that was put together for focus monitoring continues to be the plan.
Okay.
Basically, for schools that didn't have that, they had to write one, but since we had one, that plan is continuing. And
Okay.
the data is still being gathered against that. But that is a report out that should be coming out at the end of the year on goals for
Okay.
you. I'll
Okay.
make sure that that is taken care of.
And what is the, how do you get to the point where you're not a focus group? What are the guidelines to no longer be, because I didn't even know that that was possible. I thought, because the last
Right.
time, the last focus monitoring, I thought was like 2 years of certain scores and you were finally off of that, so I'm shocked
It's a
that.
little bit elusive,
Yeah,
which is why we're kind of waiting to see. But supposedly, if you're making adequate progress for 2 years, you're supposed to be removed from the list. Ellis has made remarkable improvement over the past 2 years, so we're hoping that it meets their threshold. But at the same time, there's the focus schools are the bottom 10%, of which the largest gap. So they went through some explanation, and most of the superintendents sat around and said, we'll just wait and see what you come up with for the formula, because it is elusive. They keep twisting it and changing it and moving it. So.
And they pretty much made it voluntary,
I don't
didn't they?
know. Well, if you opt out.
Because when Michelle called me on it and said, we're designated focus school, but
Right.
we have to accept the designation.
That means that if you accept the designation, you continue to get Title I funds.
Okay.
If you refuse the designation, you lose Title I funding.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
that was the acceptance.
That was,
And who
that
goes-
was a stick.
Yes,
Who
that
goes
was
to the quarterly focus school meeting?
John, Stephanie, and I do.
Okay.
She's watching the data, and John comes for the workshops and I go for the workshops as well.
Okay.
And Sarah Krebs does not go?
No, generally she doesn't. We need to have, well, she needs to be, she's not a part of the focus monitoring. Well, she is part of the focus monitoring, but we can't have that many people out of the building at once.
But wouldn't you think that it has to do with our most vulnerable and our special education? Shouldn't she be
The
part of
gap.
that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that she would get what she needs out of it, rather than being here working on the things that she needs to be working on. And right now, at this time of year, there are so many meetings going on, it's hard for her to be out of the building. If there are workshops that she feels that she benefits from, she will go. To my knowledge, she's not going to this one, and I didn't see one in particular that was focused on her area. That is our designation, but most of what they work on are whole school initiatives. Assessment, curriculum alignment, that sort of thing. The whole thrust of this, and I went through this when they came. Karen Laba is one of the people who comes down from the state to meet with John. When they sat across the table from me, my thought was, okay, we have a gap problem. Let's focus on the gap. Let's work on those students who are struggling, who need to have their achievement brought up, specifically target them. Let's spend our time there. And I was told absolutely not. You have to work on the entire school.
It makes sense, because you don't want to close the gap by dropping everybody down.
Well, you don't drop everybody down, you bring the bottom up.
Right, well, that's what I mean, but you know what I'm saying, so if you focus on just the gap, you may lose the momentum you have with the people.
That will continue, and the plan is in place for that, and John is doing a great job with that. But, for example, the first thing that I said when I came here last summer was, okay, pull out the kneecaps, let's take a look at those specific kids, and you've heard me say this, and we're gonna tutor them until they take that test, and guess what? Voila, they all made it. That was targeting that population, working with them on what they didn't know, what skills they were struggling with, and we made it. That's not what they're asking us to do. They're asking us to work at the entire building and hope that those kids come along the way. I'm for targeted intervention. We know targeted intervention works, but it's not politically correct. And that's the big issue.
And
Oh,
that,
really?
I would have that, I wouldn't
Since when
spend
do we
years
worry about
saying-
that?
And that's precisely it. I'm not worried about that.
But if they're not,
Don't
scores
put me on
aren't going up, or they're not progressing, to me, in my eyes, are just as, I don't know, common sense. You would think that though, you have to figure out why they're not, that the gap's getting bigger.
Well, the gap
Because it's
isn't
ours.
improving. It isn't increasing. It's getting smaller.
Good.
But
Okay.
when you've got 96% of your kids who are on grade level, those students who need most of your time should be the ones who are getting it. And that's the objection. So, but it raised our scores for everybody because we did that, so, you know, it's something of a conundrum.
All right.
I get in trouble when I ask that question.
Does anybody else have any other questions about Betsy's report? Lots of stuff going on, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff, but lots of stuff. Okay, and then the principal's report. Wow, you had quite a conference.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
I thought it was neat what he said at the end, I marked it. The way he said to summarize the conference in a few words, not only nourished my professional knowledge, but it fed the soul of what I do every day, not just for a living, but my life's work. I thought that was nice.
It's a nice statement.
Yeah. It sounds like you took a lot away from it. And it sounds like it sounds like there was a few things that he's heard before, but most of it was brand new and good for him.
Yeah, parts of it was pretty neat.
It's reinvigorating to go to
It sounds like
that
that
kind
is
of a
how he felt
conference.
about it.
And he chose a good one, and I got a lot out of it.
So, did anybody have any questions about John's report?
No.
That's it.
No.
Great writing, I thought. for that. Special ed report. I was surprised at item 1, being NEASC accreditation for her goal.
So, I was asked the same question, did I miss something?
I thought maybe it might be better. I think we have a goal of improving communication. And we haven't really started NEASC, so I don't know how she can be working on it. So that was my take on that. I was surprised at item 1.
Okay.
And maybe we could just have a recap of what your discussion with Sarah is on that at some point. Do you see my question?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I don't remember saying let's start, yeah, I know we talked about that, I remember voting to start it.
We voted to fund it again,
We did vote to fund it.
and, which is to begin the process. But there's still some questions as to whether or not we'll be able to do it, and that hasn't been resolved yet.
And this RESC Law Conference, I went to that a couple of times in the past, but I would love to see the packet, if she wouldn't mind sharing it. She says in item 3.
Okay.
And what is, if we could get something on practice pointers, maybe if we see the packet, I'll understand it.
Okay.
But
I'll have
I don't
that.
know what practice pointers are.
I should be
Um,
able to pull it down,
Last time we went, they gave it to us on
Yeah, they gave
Oh,
us on a
thumb
jump
drive?
drive.
Yes.
a jump drive,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
It was great, because it really gave you some good information about the laws. Did anybody else have any other questions
No?
about Sarah's report?
Anyway.
Director of Technology, she's been busy. The wireless is in,
Yes, it is, it's great.
all over the building.
What did she end up doing with the old wireless devices?
I didn't ask, but we had talked about it in advance, so I'm not exactly sure what she did. I think that the effort would be made to sell them if we could, but I believe that they're too old.
Yeah, I think that's what she said.
In the end, I think we just turned them over for whatever recycling we could get for them. There was also, initially when the system was put in, there was a problem in the kitchen, and she thought she might have to add another node. Turns out she didn't have to. She was able to.
How about the modules? Did they have to have X ones up there, or do they cover those?
As far as I know, everywhere in this building
Everything's
is covered and on one of
Whether
those.
there's one out there or not, I don't know.
Well, so when they did the coverage map, it didn't cover the module, so she's,
Oh,
remember, that's
No, I
one
don't
of the
remember
questions, that's
that.
one of the questions I had was, the map they presented didn't cover all the area.
I don't
So
remember
the
that.
reply was, they were
Right.
gonna add another wireless unit if they need to, there's one if they needed to.
she said there's coverage everywhere.
It should be covered everywhere.
But was it with what they had, or did they have to have X one, that's the question.
I don't know. She just said it was all working and everything was covered.
Yeah,
We
I
didn't even
I
ask
talked to
Greg
her, she
at the
said
tech
it's working
meeting,
great,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't specifically ask her that. I would make.
She
Yeah.
has some extra units, so I'm guessing she was able to use some of
Right.
the old stuff and still has a few extras if she needs to put them somewhere, like if there's a dead zone somewhere. She still has a couple of extra,
And I just
whatever
wanted,
they are,
well,
those
there's one
things
question
that
there when
send
they
out
did
the
the proposal
signal.
way back when was, if it doesn't cover, she just put one extra one in, that's too much.
Yeah, she's
Okay.
got capacity to do that.
Yeah.
So I think we worked well, at least, how many old ones we took out, like 20 of them, 15 of them?
I don't know the specifics. It's all in the proposal wherever.
Yeah, it sounds about right, but
Yeah, it sounds about
I
right.
can't be,
I
sure
mean,
either.
I don't know which one.
It was
we
old
took out.
technology, you
Yeah,
know?
it was barely working.
Yeah, and it was hard.
But people buy them for home, the techies, they'll buy them for home. They don't care.
She already got rid of them though,
Yeah.
from when she came in, I thought.
We had talked about it,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and we had approved it, you
Yeah.
know, based on what she had told us. She had
Yeah.
done the work to find out whether or not, you know, they could be sold or
Oh, yeah.
whatnot.
Was it,
And we
it was worth
approved
the
that.
time?
Yeah, and the.
We approved that for her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
so I do remember
Greg, it
that.
might not have been worth their time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
if they're going, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Are you looking for some free wireless nodes?
No, I have done, but it's just, but the techies are gonna buy them. It doesn't matter how old they are, because they still work, so.
We didn't ask them at the tech meeting, and we don't have another tech meeting till the fall now.
Right, well, I can certainly find out. Well, I'll ask her how they were disposed.
And she may have kept them as backups, I don't know. She
I don't
mentioned
think
it, she
they'll
just didn't
fit,
mention
I
it.
don't think they'll be backups, they won't fit with this system.
No,
Oh,
they
okay.
don't
Yeah.
meet the system's requirements.
And like, except for like a backup here maybe, which isn't 15,
I
like,
think it's not.
Can a school sell things like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
You can have an eBay account and sell
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
It just goes into the general account.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Good to
In
know.
some big school districts, they have a person whose job is to get on eBay and sell and stuff,
Ah,
so.
cool.
I don't think we'll ever be that big.
Hmm.
Any other questions for Carla Smith, Director of Technology?
No, because our conference is so fun though.
Yeah, great conferences, so.
Yeah, something, what did you call it? Geek Meet.
Yes,
Oh, I like
yeah.
that one.
That's funny. Okay, Scott Brown, Facility Director's Report. The only, I don't, Sue, I talked to you earlier about
Yeah.
the vent. I have no idea where I saw that. I mean, I must
Okay.
be going crazy.
Okay, what?
The air vents, we'll talk about that later. It's in the agenda later. But I thought I read somewhere that
ducts.
they cleaned the ducts, and then I didn't see them anymore, so. But it's in the request
Yes,
for
yes, it is.
things, so. The only question I had, the fire chief came for reinspection on April 17th and briefed Mr. Sapina afterwards. So, is everything okay?
Yes, our safety reports we were in compliance and we were able to get our school approval because we had to have that certificate to go to the state, so. The general problems are extension cords,
Mhm.
that's the big one, running across the floor, under rugs, that sort of
Mhm.
thing. So, and that stuff had all been taken care of.
That's good.
Right, the old computers were all,
Yeah, everything was,
wires were all over the place.
yeah,
We
those
had
things
that
were cleaned up.
rewired.
I was at the school at a meeting, and I just have to ask this. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but in the bathrooms, there are not matching faucets. Like, you push down the things, and there's like a little brass pin that sits up, and you have to push that instead of a faucet cover.
Okay.
It's in both bathrooms, and
It's
it's
the
been
boys'
like that
bathrooms like that.
forever. And I
Oh.
didn't see it on the wish list as faucets, so
Mhm.
I'm assuming that it's just a regular
Those things should
standard.
just be replaced as they're
Yeah.
needed. If we're going to have the plumbers in, then we can take a look at some of the regular maintenance money from next year to handle a few of
Yeah.
those things. But I would like to take a look at, for next year's list, redoing a number of those bathrooms.
Yeah.
Gutting them,
I
refitting them with new
Because-
toilets, sinks,
Yes.
mirrors, the whole bit,
Yeah.
Retiling everything, just
Yeah.
strip them and.
Instead of
and-
15,
They're gross.
16
They're
years.
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah, let's put in a
I
bunch of
know
new
how to wait
bathrooms.
here, and
Yeah,
it was very hard
exactly.
to do it last year,
Yeah.
we didn't even have, been
No, I
in the
know.
building.
It's
you
time
know?
to clean up the mess.
Yeah, but I've been very patient to not say anything about them, but they're still like
They
that.
should
It's
be
been
done.
months, it's
Yeah.
been like months,
Mhm.
so I'm just curious.
I will take that up with the facility director.
Just curious. And it looks like the floors are gonna be shiny because the rotary scrubber came in, huh?
Yeah,
Things are getting better,
Good.
just gonna take some time.
yeah.
Anybody have any other questions for Mr. Brown or any
No.
about any of this?
No questions at all?
Financial administrator's report is very brief.
I
because
know,
She sent us.
I apologize.
She sent us.
It was like 2:00 in the morning, I think.
And I didn't get a
I
chance to read it.
apologize, I was,
So, hey,
time of the day.
She's
Sorry,
not here right now.
But I'm not gonna, I need a lot of time.
Yeah.
I didn't go
Do you
look
wanna
at
come and sit down? She's gonna be gone for the next 3 days, remember, too.
No, I don't need, anything
Yeah.
I have questions on,
Don't
I
we
can
want-
well, I
bring
can
to
tell
the
you
next meeting,
briefly,
it's not
well, I
anything
can tell you
important.
briefly though, that, what I've done, because ADS is capable of it,
Mhm.
is there's a column called anticipated encumbrances.
Yeah.
So when we know something's coming, but we don't really wanna put a purchase order in yet, just to, as this time of year approaches, I find this tool in ADS very useful.
Mhm.
It's to the right of the encumbrance column.
Mhm.
So, as I said in the report, when I know something is gonna happen, I just kind of plop it in there, and that helps us to predict our fund balance more easily without having somebody have to do purchase orders,
Right.
and some of the things aren't possible to do purchase orders for anyway.
Mhm.
It would be a payroll encumbrance, which, again, it's not worth someone's time to create a position for stipend-type positions and things.
Mhm. So, one question that I do have is, if you look at the second column, budget adjustments, in the report,
I don't know if we have the same report.
we
so-
did, the statement of expenditures,
Yeah,
What's wrong with
it's the
that?
one you sent us.
budget,
Last
oh,
month.
but, I'm sorry, budget adjustments, yes, sorry, yes.
She was here
That-
very late last night.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was like,
that
I was looking at the
column-
other end.
how do those numbers get generated, that column?
Those are by our budget transfers.
Okay, that's all there from,
Mhm.
so last time we must have transferred 3675 from teacher salary to somewhere else, correct? Because there's a difference from the last report to this report.
Yes, yep.
Okay,
And don't forget to, any budget transfer that's under $2,000,
okay, can also happen.
Yes.
Right. Okay, and so the negative line items, like balance remaining when they're negative.
Yep.
Those are gonna be future, I would think, transfer
yes,
requests,
exactly.
because
But
you're
again-
anticipating that we're gonna spend that kind of money.
Again, like, for instance, in the subs line, the subs personal line, what I
Yeah.
basically did was I ran a payroll attendance list and calculated all the teachers' days all the teachers that still have personal days left.
Mhm.
And I multiplied those times the number of subs we would need to cover those days. Right now, I think there was something like 76 personal days hanging out there.
Mhm.
But by the next payroll, we may have a better handle on that, and we may not need all those subs that I actually encumbered the funds for.
Okay.
Things like that. I can tell you that I have met with Scott. Scott's numbers are pretty final. Scott and I went and we looked through every purchase order that he had open. We closed quite a few, and we encumbered funds for just a few things that he hadn't encumbered. I plan on meeting with Sarah. I had hoped to meet with her prior to going with this, because if you look, the 1200 function has a significant amount. It's page 4 at the top.
Mhm.
That's a large part of the fund balance is in 1200
Mhm.
function, so I really need to get a handle on whether she's gonna release that money or not.
Mhm.
So that's a big part of
Yes.
whether you can go forward with some of your list or not.
Mhm. And even with Scott's closing up, he still has $45,000 left.
Yes,
So some of the stuff he's asking for is really something he could use right out.
Well, I
You don't
think
have to say-
those funds, he has a purpose for.
he does, exactly.
Yeah, those are all
Oh,
funds.
you mean the
that-
45,000 that,
This
this
is
extra?
remaining balance.
Well, he's returning that to the, I see what you're saying, you
Yeah.
could use it for the ductwork
For
or
the,
whatever.
oh,
Yeah, for
If-
his
right.
request.
right, but no,
Yeah.
well, after you freeze the budget,
Yeah.
unless you have permission from, and I usually will go to the board for a
Mhm.
large expenditure, you're right, he would have to ask for transfers into the fund to make that happen. But generally, after we freeze the budget, that's it.
Yeah, what I met with him was to find out if I could have that 45,000
Mhm.
to put into the fund balance, and he has everything he needs with his encumbrances of 53,000. See, his total encumbrances are 53,000.
Yep.
Because you'll see that there's a negative amount, under fuel oil Ellis, that's because the purchase order, the amount remaining is never gonna be what we're gonna spend with,
Mhm.
I think it was fuel oil, no, I'm sorry, it was electricity,
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was the 5th year in the 4 or 5 year cycle for ductwork, we probably would have come to the board and, moved the stuff around
Yeah.
that happened.
And we can talk about that during the discussion on that. Because in the past, we've said, put it in the budget. That should be something that happens.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
an
It should
automatic.
be,
We should
yeah.
never let the ductwork ever be,
More than 5 years, yeah.
no, it should just be done whenever the schedule is.
Right,
It
which
should
is
be-
every 5 years.
Should be on a 3 to 5, I
3
think
to
is what I
5,
said,
yeah.
yeah.
But remember, we, as a board, were you on the board then? We all said,
Yes.
do the ductwork.
So it should
Were
be.
you on
Was
board
it
then,
done?
Jeff?
It
I
should be
remember it.
just in the
Was it
budget.
done?
You are correct. It
Because
should be in
he
the
told
budget.
me that
It
this
can be
will
variable though, I would think, because you
Yeah,
know, in
remember
some
when it
years
was
it
like
might
really
be.
bad and they
Yeah.
said they really needed it? And
Yeah.
so maybe.
Because he
it was-
said this will be the 4th year that it hasn't been done, is
Yeah.
what he told me.
It's about that.
And
Oh,
5
that's
years,
wise.
5 year cycle. I think.
Right,
And
5-year maximum.
So we should have, if we can, put that into the budget, I don't know.
For next year, you mean?
No, I just mean, have it on the
Yeah.
schedule and make sure he budgets for it when it needs to be done.
I see
Oh,
what you're
yeah.
saying,
So
yeah.
it's not needing to be.
Like I said,
It's
now
not
that
needing to
we're-
be squeezed out of the extra money.
It
I
should be
agree.
part of the regular capital improvements
Right.
budgets that's
Mhm.
set into the budget
I
every year.
agree, but now that we're a little more in the groove.
No, I'm not finding fault with you, it's all about that, at all.
Oh, by
I
the
just
way,
want, I want it budgeted, I
Yeah.
want that
Yes.
done, I want
You
the air
should-
clean in the building.
Because something else you should know, last week, I think it was last week,
Whatever.
no, it's just a good thing, it's a good thing. It was last Wednesday, I believe. I took a tour, I took a couple hours and walked the walk with Scott, and we, looked at long-term things, short-term things. We also looked at the cleanliness of the building and what I've told him, like, kind of a new standard is, and
Hi.
not this week, because I'm out the rest of the week, I have a conference.
Mhm.
But next week, I plan on meeting with him and the rest of the staff, laying out what, these are your daily tasks, these are your monthly tasks, and kind of following through as to the accomplishment of those lists.
Mhm.
Because the building, it should be a little cleaner than it is.
Mhm.
Your school, I feel that.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
not
yeah.
disagreeing.
I
Yeah.
agree too.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I'm a stickler for, and we've been working.
Yeah,
since-
me too, I like.
I wanna be
clean
able to eat
things.
off the floor.
Yeah.
And,
Don't invite me to lunch.
Not in first grade, you go.
before the kids get there.
Okay,
Yeah.
Kids get there.
But I walked with some of the teachers, they lifted under rugs and showed me that there was dirt. There were a lot of little things that we hope to address
Yep.
by my meeting with the staff with Scott to,
Stepping up, stepping it up.
letting them know that it's just not okay to do it once a week or once a month or, I come from school districts where they spent the summer cleaning desks, washing floors,
Stripping wax.
yeah.
Painting walls.
Really,
Replacing-
and even if they have to hire
Yeah,
someone,
they do.
college kids to help in the summer
And
to
if
do
we need
those
help,
things, that's what we used to do.
Yeah,
So,
It's just that,
Yeah.
those things have to be
that's great,
done.
I'm glad you're working on it.
yeah, so that's one thing that we're working on.
Yes.
And with that comes the list of things, like, for instance, this is way out there, but is what we call what I label the 1973 wing. There's the floor in the gym. The floor's starting to wear, but underneath it is asbestos.
Well,
Yes.
so he told us that a year or two ago that we had to replace it soon.
That was my
Is it
point.
really?
Yeah, we're gonna-
But it's not in.
Oh, yeah, no, I just remember,
Yeah.
In the
I
budget,
remember talking about it a couple of
in
years
the
ago.
So-
budget process for next year. we're gonna be
Exactly,
looking at
stage
asking
one
for
of
those
that,
funds. It's time.
because it's way
It's
past
gonna be a
time.
big chunk, $60,000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he told us that it was gonna
Yeah.
have to be done.
It has to be done. We just figured we'll just get all of the asbestos taken care
And we can't, he said I remember discussing, we can't just lay over what we
No.
have because of the risers and it creates problems coming in and out of the gym.
Yes, yep.
And it's an
of. Yeah,
issue
if they start to
there, so-
break up, it has to be.
But we need
removed.
to get that addressed very, sooner than later type of
Yeah.
situation.
Next year's budget cycle.
Yeah, so, and the other thing that I've worked on this month, I didn't get a chance to write this all down, but I finally come to reconcile with New Hampshire time, and it took a very long time, but we're reconciled just about. She sent me the last email, it agrees with the stuff I had sent her, so I think we owe them a little bit more money. There was some kind of a glitch in the way the payroll was set up, that certain teachers, the the employer's share of New Hampshire retirement wasn't being deducted from their pay, yeah. I was talking too much.
It's okay, it's back.
But it's fixed, so going forward,
It shouldn't be in there.
yeah, and that's actually one of the things I have encumbered some money for the summer. Well, hopefully they'll be here before June. I want to work with ADS to clean up payroll. It was set up improperly in the beginning. It's not that I can't do it myself, but if I work with them, it'll go much quicker.
Yeah.
So, because it's a kind of a lengthy process, the account numbers are too the pay codes are too lengthy.
There are a lot of things. that
There's
need to
just
be
a
cleaned
lot
up.
of garbage, and before eventually ADS is gonna migrate to a new system,
So you have to make sure it's.
garbage
all
in,
going.
garbage, I don't wanna transfer
We want
garbage
to get it all
over
cleaned
there.
up before we transfer.
So,
over.
Good.
anyway,
Yeah.
so that's the story with my stuff.
It's a story of her life.
Sticking with it?
Yeah, I am, right. So if anybody has any questions, just let me know.
Okay.
Alright.
Enrollment report.
I did have a question about that. I was looking at the high school enrollment, it looks like we're down 7 students from the beginning of the school year.
Mhm.
Do we have any idea where those students went?
I'm sure we would if we wanted to ask, and some of them graduated early.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I can
Okay.
tell you what happens,
All right.
Andy is a couple times a year, well, maybe 3 times so far since I've been here, Melissa and I sit down and we, go over, you know, kids that have left or graduated or dropped out or whatever, so.
And that's what we are. We're very, very much on, Melissa is wonderful
She
about
is.
this. She knows every kid, what they're doing, when they're in there, when they're not there, et cetera.
Some students graduate early.
Yes,
They do.
I know, it's
Is that like January or?
Yes.
All different times really, Tim,
Oh,
you'd be
really?
Whenever
surprised,
they
yeah.
finish. Sometimes this is an independent study, they're done at an off time, so.
All right.
yeah.
And Alice is 419 now, so.
Yeah, we're done.
You know what? Well, down from the,
Yeah.
up from last month though.
Yep, we're up
I
to.
don't know if you can see that.
I mean, it's kind of ironic, because, you know, the more students we have, the more we can offer, the fewer students we have, it's more
It's
difficult
tougher.
to offer extra programming, which is, makes it difficult.
You guys see that?
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on enrollment or comments? Thank you. Lamprey Healthcare's school-based dental program.
Yeah, I did have a question on that. The question I had on that was, there's 320 students were eligible, 228 were screened, 47 declined, it's only 275 students. What happened to the other 45
Let's see.
students?
Total eligible number of students screened, number of students declining.
How are you eligible? Oh, K through 6,
Yeah,
K through
K through
6.
six.
Yeah.
That's why,
It says
320,
were eligible,
right, 320 would be K through 6.
228 were screened, 47
He's
declined,
looking
only
for the
45
difference.
students are not accounted for. We have no
That's a
idea.
good question. I will find out.
All right.
Point of order, Ida. Since it's a small group, do you entertain questions from, I just have a real quick one on enrollment.
If the board is okay with it.
Yeah,
fine.
I'm good.
Normally we don't let people
Yeah,
talk,
I
but you
know.
know what, we also are very flexible.
Yeah, and it's a small gang tonight, so.
Yeah,
It's really for the superintendent. I'm just curious about, like, is this a demographic that you see across the state with enrollments across schools?
Declining enrollment?
Yeah.
Yes. In
Yes.
fact, New Hampshire is declining.
Okay.
Population of New Hampshire has steadily been declining, and they can say it's going to continue,
Mhm.
particularly the age group that is having children.
Okay.
and the state had a huge demographic up on their board when I went to one of the conferences recently, and the whole state is.
Yeah. So what's
Across the
the,
state.
what's the
Particularly-
projection like out 10 years?
I really.
I know it's like
into that.
It's hard to,
Yeah, and it depends, that, you know, is the crystal ball
Yeah.
question, but it is continually declining,
Yeah.
and we are becoming an older and poorer state. But it's the fact, you know, we're becoming an older and poorer
Sorry,
state.
it's just the, right.
thanks.
Sorry.
Answers my question.
Not what you really wanted to hear.
No.
Okay, so we're missing a few kiddos, and
Yes.
the only thing I had was history, untreated decay. Do we,
We have kids who don't see the dentist.
right, but is there any other programs out there for them? I mean, this little bus comes along and says, okay, you've got bad teeth, and then what, bye-bye?
There is, it is, that's,
I know,
they
heartless to me.
they will recommend to the parents, you know, that there is state health care for kids, there is dental health care for kids.
Oh, there is,
And
is
there are-
there
there are
dental health
brochures.
care too?
Yeah, as part of, there was a push, and I don't know how Obamacare fits into this, but there was a push about 10 years ago
Yes.
where the state pushed dental care along with the health care program for insuring
So
kids who are
healthy
uninsured.
families? Okay,
It was the uninsured population, and I remember running into this problem with the kids. We had a dentist locally who would take some of these kids, and we would find money to pay for it. Our dress down day usually paid for that thing, but then the state picked it up, the dental care, through the health care program for kids. And I believe they still have that, and I don't know if that's shifting under the new health care system, what's happening with it, but they have to be taken. So,
Can you ask that question to make sure to Collar that they would be, there are programs that they're referred to?
they can be referred to, but it's the parent who has to make the choice about whether they choose to participate.
The their
Listen, we
responsibility.
can't force anyone.
It's the
Right.
parents' responsibility.
Yeah, it is, it's the parents' responsibility.
I think the truck comes back, don't they do forms too? No, I know.
Truck comes
I
back.
know, isn't it like a big truck or van that comes?
It's a roving.
But they
it's a
probably
roving
can't treat the child unless the
No,
parent okays
no,
it.
if the parent okays it.
clinic.
I've
This is a
seen it.
screening only, this is
Oh.
a screening, this is a
I
cleaning
remember
and
it coming
screening.
back at one time, or is it a dream, or a
And
nightmare?
what they'll do is they'll send home a report with the child, you have, you know,
Yeah.
X, you know, you should go to this and apply here and do
Right.
that and take care of this.
If
But
know,
I
there's
have
a
dealt
lot
with kids in the classroom who have had
Mhm.
toothaches from
Yeah.
Right.
decayed teeth and can't learn because
Right.
they hurt.
That's what
Right.
I'm asking.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a sad state.
That's what I wanted to know, because what good is it to screen them if they just go home and...
You know, the idea
Well, we
is to
say no, I mean,
encourage
these
cleaning.
parents are being made aware of it.
Yeah,
you
it's
know.
it's an awareness raising, it's
Right.
teaching kids the right dental skills,
Right.
giving out toothbrushes and floss,
Mhm.
you know, those things to kids, and toothpaste samples,
Mhm.
to getting them into that, to
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or to the heart.
As soon as possible, is good. New Hampshire DOE's, oh, did anybody else have any questions about that?
No.
New Hampshire DOE survey status update.
Yeah, this is the school approval process, and we went through it this year because our approval is up June 30th, and this gives us 2 years of approval. So that is the big certificate we get.
Yep.
Just so that you
Yeah.
know.
Used to come on a piece of paper, now it's
Yeah,
just
no,
an
it's just
email.
an email. Yeah.
Unanticipated fund balance priorities list.
This is information only, this is not a time to make decisions, this is for you to ask questions, then go home and think,
Good.
and talk amongst yourselves. But not 3 of you or more in any place other than
All right.
I mean, you know, one
I
thing,
have some questions.
and yeah, I mean, yeah, one thing, to keep in mind is upkeep and maintenance of the school, and keeping it looking nice, I think is essential. You know, I think it talks a lot about our investment in kids, it prevents them, it presents to them a good atmosphere of learning. You know, if things are tattered and torn and dirty, and it just projects the wrong kind of atmosphere. And it's like, it just shows people that we don't care enough, you know.
That's what we're working on.
And so, I mean, that's why, you know, some of the stuff which may not seem important, like the carpets and stuff. I mean, I think they are
It's a
very,
safety issue.
yeah, it is safety, but I think they're very important.
So when you have 21,005 down here, does this go out to bid to at least
This
three?
is an estimate,
Right.
it will go out to bid.
Okay.
There will be an
Anything
RFP
5,000
or more.
So if we were to come back and approve these, it would be up to these amounts, but
Yes.
we would obviously
We would go
put
out
it
to
out to
bid, we
bid.
would bring the bids back to you for approval.
Okay.
I think
And-
that's based on one estimate that he's already gotten,
Yeah.
just so you know.
And the Ellis School office chairs, is that for just 4 chairs?
That's 4 chairs, they brought in their own chairs.
Right, but $230 a chair, when you can go to Staples and get them for 60 or 75?
The chairs that they, let's see.
That they chose.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's like, who,
I just brought forward what they brought forward. You
I'm
can, you
just
can cut it in half if you
200,
want.
I don't know what kind of chair you can buy for 230, but I
A
know
nice
there was a
one.
really nice one for
It's a
75
nice one.
bucks at Staples that I was looking at going, ooh, that'd be nice for my house, right? And then I saw 230 a chair and I
There
went,
you go, there's the chair.
oh geez, yeah, no.
Let me see evidence.
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Does it have lumbar massage?
It has a jet that you can take to and from home.
Dentist chair.
Well, let's see, this is a technical mesh task chair, has arms.
Can I switch?
They
Yes,
can have
send it
no
around.
chairs.
It has
They
knees.
just turned
Send it around, let the.
So-
I just was
But-
curious.
but if
I
it's-
This is
had to see
always,
it
the
to
money
believe
is
it.
always a
So the
maximum.
one thing I'd bring up though, if it's a chair that's sitting in all day,
Yes.
you gotta make sure it's comfortable.
Well, it's ergonomics. I know
Yeah.
I've had a lot of issues with carpal tunnel and with back issues
Yeah.
and whatever else if you don't have a chair that supports you.
Cause I think those are the, it'll kind of look like the chair I have at my work, and it's the big thing is to ergonomics and.
2 of them are for the 2 secretaries who are basically sitting at the desks all day long. The other two are John and JR, we should just take their chairs away.
Give them a higher desk.
So
That way they
then,
just
cut the
sit.
person up.
I'm for one of the desks, this is what I really would like to have, is the treadmill desk.
Can I see that?
Where you're walking and you have the desk in front of you, and your
Oh.
computer on the desk, and you
I'll
continue
chat.
to walk. You know, it would be great. I would love to have that.
I want one of those.
Yeah.
How are you on computer?
Well, that's it.
They take my
Yes,
ass.
it won't work unless you're moving.
I mean, these have like a headrest and everything.
Yes, I like it.
This comes with the protection plan too, right?
Well, we wouldn't have to buy the protection plan.
On-site assembly, is that?
I think, and I've got to get John into asking for what he really, realistically for what, don't worry that you have to ask for so much.
All right.
You know, ask for what you need because you'll get what you need. Don't ask for too much so that you get half of what you need. I think that's a culture that I have to work on.
And the other thing is the new music keyboard for music classes. I still don't understand why we can't use the frost fund to buy that.
You could do that.
We could
I
do
mean,
that.
you could do
Not
that.
the chairs.
That
Not
the chairs, there you
not
go.
chairs, but that we could use. We got-
Absolutely,
So how
you
long
could do
We
that.
got $7,000 of frost fund.
Or you
How
could
long
do the art room with that.
Yes, and there's a thought.
There we go.
Yeah.
How long does it take to build up that
Well, I don't know if I'll
$7,000?
spend all of it.
Hold on. This is Korean.
I'm sorry,
How long does it take to build up that $7,000?
A long
A
time.
long time, that's why I don't want to spend all of it.
But you figure, it takes 20, that keyboard's 20 years old.
Right.
So if you buy it, you've got 20 years for the next,
Is that a piano? Is that what you're talking about?
it is an electronic piano.
Oh, it is an electronic
And
one?
it is a very early model. When I bought that model in 1992. And the lamination is coming off, the keys are now, I took pictures, the keys are uneven, there's, they're marked. It needs to be.
So it's not the piano they use though when they're doing like the musical and stuff? It's not the piano they reel into the...
It is, they
It is
really
It is, it's what they use
okay.
in concerts every
Yeah.
day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in pretty
Did
sad
everybody see
shape.
the chair?
Yeah.
Do you guys want to see the chair?
Oh, that's, you take care. We're good, I'm good.
It needs to be replaced. And frankly, that is something that normally, is a piece of equipment that should be part of a budget process. But like, we just got here. So this should be a cycle,
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a couple of years, that
Yeah,
everything
equipment.
needs to be on a purchase cycle.
Yeah,
We need to have a capital maintenance, capital
right.
plan in place, so everything, the roof, the windows.
And we have the cycle now.
Yeah, we have it.
But we need to fund the cycle.
No, once we have it, we can start funding
And
it.
it wasn't funded last year, and in the budget process that we put together for next year, we weren't prepared for it because we hadn't created it yet.
Right.
Where does that get funded? Is it under capital?
It would be under replace equipment.
Oh, okay,
replace,
okay, so it's not like its own separate
No.
function or anything,
Yeah,
not
yeah, be
capital?
under whatever
Yeah.
function needs to replace.
New
with
furniture,
oil
replace
maintenance,
furniture, the desk
yeah.
chairs for the office would be under replace furniture.
Okay,
It was 734 or whatever.
okay.
Um,
And then Brain Pop software, I could have sworn that was in the line item for our
Okay.
software.
That sounds familiar.
I mean, I don't know how many
Yeah.
times I've seen Brain Pop pop
I
up.
can go grab one.
Well, no, this is questions,
Yeah.
we will just check.
Yes, yeah.
We will
I
check
just,
this to
I
make
would
sure.
just
But
like
that,
to check to make sure
that
that the
sounds familiar
description.
to me,
It
so-
does sound familiar, and I.
But they
I
could
did
use
check.
several different types for all we know.
However,
No, this is
Yeah.
also.
They may have used that money for something else, so now they need Brain Pop.
That's
They may
true.
have
We'll check
decided
it.
to buy something else, and
Question
now
mark.
they're saying, but we'd really like to do Brain
In
Pop
budget.
again.
See, one thing I'm thinking about, when we talk about the
That's
capital,
exactly.
capital improvement, capital maintenance plan,
That's true.
what you could do, you get a sense of what your expenses are from year to year, then you could take the fund balance, let's say in Scott's budget, instead of just putting $10,000 into that trust
You could-
fund,
yeah.
you could put more anticipated.
But you have to vote on putting more in.
Yeah,
the
Rich was both,
Up
but,
to 50,000.
yeah,
or up
yeah,
to-
you could, we could keep it more abreast of what we need.
Well, there's no guarantee they'll say yes to that, though.
Yeah.
No, there isn't.
They're saying yes. for
The ideal
25,000, they
budget,
might
the
be
ideal
reasonable.
budget is steady,
Right.
that you're going to spend $60,000 a year on keeping up your building, and every year you put in $60,000.
Right.
The ideal budget is extremely steady,
Right.
and that's what, we're
Right
gonna,
now, we have, what, 25?
yeah, we're gonna be working on, that sort of steadiness.
Right, yeah, that's what we need.
Yeah.
We really
That's
do.
great.
That way the voters aren't looking at this and they're.
Because it's better doing it that way than having to return the money
Yep.
every year.
Yeah, it goes 10 every year,
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 every
But we
year.
also, we need a couple of other trust funds. We need a tuition trust
Oh, we
fund, we need
do.
a technology trust fund.
We need a special, yeah.
And a special education trust fund.
We
We
need
need
a
those
special
three
ed
trust
trust
All
funds.
right, there we go.
Yeah.
We'll just pace ourselves
Why don't
because we don't want to be budgeting
Yeah.
We need to create those.
And my feeling on this list is that it all looks reasonable to me. I don't have a problem spending the balance on that, you know, and I know we're not making a decision tonight.
Right.
I just had those few questions about, you know,
Yeah, we will get the answers.
give me some explanation here, you know.
And if you need to go into the school and look at these
Right.
things, feel
No,
free to
no,
do that.
no,
you
no.
know.
I mean, I really think that they're reasonable requests, and I would love to see the science lab done. It would just
Yeah.
make my heart sing.
I like the
Um,
science book.
I wanna go
Book
in and see
every
what it's
kid.
done.
And I also think the faculty room could use a makeover. I
Yeah.
just think we should get, you know,
I mean,
tie in
Other
here,
topics
everything.
That may go a long way also for morale.
Yes.
Yeah.
but I think, you know, some of that stuff, like the fact, you know,
We already have the nurses room in the budget.
like the faculty room. You know, we got a lot of contractors in town. Why not just put out to them saying, hey, you know, we get extra materials, can you help us redo the faculty
We
room?
will, we will, we
And
will
they-
take a
It
look.
looks like they used some extra materials.
Well, I know, but
And that didn't work out
I'd be
so well.
surprised, you'd be surprised if someone might be willing to come on a Saturday and,
Well, we
Cut 'em
can,
all down.
it's not an issue of having paying for labor, because
Yeah.
Scott will
prepared
do
to-
just about everything. It's
Yeah.
just, and believe me, Scott is gonna get the deal. If there's
Yeah,
a deal to be had, Scott will get the
He
deal.
goes to the read store and.
We put the money in that we put in what we would have to spend as a max. We will probably not spend all of this. That, we will return money as we save money when we go out to bid and as we look at materials.
Mhm.
The idea is not to go out and spend it all. The idea is to have what we need if we need it.
the other thing is, as far as, was my question about the science lab, classroom outfitting. Now, if we were to write a grant and get money to do that, would we reimburse the school?
Yeah. Now, and you can't write, they will,
You couldn't do that?
Yeah.
All right,
It's gotta be for what you got grant for.
that's what I thought.
Question of the textbooks. Let's doing homework with Ian that night. We need to bring some copies of papers. It's hard to see because it's a copy. By getting these textbooks or science, kids can actually, they don't get photocopies of homework or
they
anything.
would get a book.
They get a book.
They get a book.
We should
In that
think
class,
about
I mean, I don't know.
Well, I know, that's that
Well,
class,
see,
but I
this
mean,
is 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah, this is
isn't
7th and 8th.
I know, but I'm just trying to think of problems. I mean, doing the math with them is hard enough.
Yeah.
I think it's something we should try to do.
Part of
lot
the
of
problem with curriculum, particularly in science and social studies these days, is that it's a resource grab. You need a book, a little bit out of this book, a little bit out of that book, and a little bit out of this book, because there's so much good stuff out there. Teachers are looking for the best resources, and one book doesn't have it all. So sometimes you're gonna get copies, you know, for that reason.
And
But this
things
would take care
change
of
so
that.
quickly.
And they do
Some
change.
of those-
I know, but I'm just trying to think of, you know, this is math homework, but it made it 10 times harder to do it. Because you look at a graph, you could do.
Math, what we're dealing with in math is we presently have the Everyday Math program, which also Sanborn has. Everyday Math, the program that we have is not aligned, the books are not aligned with the Common Core. The teachers do have the manuals that are aligned, so they're supplementing. They're doing a lot of work that way. And Everyday Math is spiraled. The research shows that spiraling doesn't work, so we have to completely take the spiraling out. So the math committee has been working on this for a year now, and they're looking at piloting next year a single 4th grade with a new book and comparing it to how the students do on their assessments in math to see if this will work a little bit better than, or any better. Although the Marshall memo came out today saying, doesn't matter what you use, it doesn't matter what book you have, because it doesn't make a difference in research. You can have any book for math or for any other subject. The textbook doesn't matter, it doesn't make a difference. No, this is for math.
It's the teacher that matters.
It's the teacher that matters, yeah.
So my point is, having books for each kid, I think is worthwhile, because drives you crazy with photocopies.
It is, it's better to work with them if you have them. But anyway, we're looking at piloting this new program. And it won't cost us anything because we already have the money in the budget to do it. But we'll take a look, we'll report out to the board at the end of next year.
And Greg, if I were you, Greg, though, if you can't read a graph on your
Yeah.
child's homework page, you need to talk to the teacher.
Yeah.
She obviously didn't notice, I would think, or he, or whoever it is. Probably, I would hope, but they should be told so that they know.
They do
that-
need to know, and also they have resources to do that. They can put a PDF on the website, the new website. Every teacher's gonna have a Google site, they can put their homework right there.
Yeah,
They
they've
can
got their
upload
homework,
it.
go to the website. now.
Yep, and you can download it and print it out at home. And that's the kind of thing that we need to get moving with here, so.
Well, the mathematicians, when they look at math curriculum in the United States, they say the biggest problem isn't the curriculum, it's the lack of expertise in mathematics in the teachers.
The Marshall memo came out with those studies, that I was
Yeah.
just reading it this afternoon,
Yeah, there's
and
not enough-
basically the three
yeah.
things in math. And the one thing is professional development for teachers.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. Yep.
We don't have mathematicians teaching
It
math,
isn't the book.
and that is the biggest deficit.
It's not mathematicians.
No,
It's
math,
teachers with the right skills.
right,
Well,
And teachers are not trained to teach math, they're trained to teach reading.
right, right.
And that's why we are a society in America of teaching reading. It's the most important thing we teach. Go to India, the most important thing they teach is math.
All right.
So that's why their kids do really well in math.
China too.
China says so.
No.
But that is.
I said math.
It's a cultural,
My
it's,
trans.
Right, well, it's a cultural thing too. In fact,
China's a whole,
Practically
and I've been to China, I've seen China schools, I know how they work. That's a whole discussion.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
I don't think we
Whole
wanna
discussion.
emulate
No.
their classrooms now.
No, you don't. You don't want to do that.
Part of our everyday math, isn't that a lot of reading in there? I think I remember John saying that they have to know how to read before they can do this math, because there's a lot.
The teachers are balancing the book, that program, with the drill, with the memorization, with the practical part.
Thank goodness,
That-
because originally that was not happening.
And what every math program from that period of 5 years and beyond back is the same thing. Saxon math, Houghton Mifflin, all of those programs have a problem.
do Singapore math too?
Singapore math is considered one of the best, and
Right.
not Bedford, Amherst did a 3-year study,
Right.
curriculum study, with the best curriculum director in the state, who's probably gonna go work for the Gates Foundation now, she's in the final round, Nicole Highmark, the most incredible person you've ever met in curriculum. They did a 3-year math study to figure out what they were going to do for the Amherst school system. They visited school systems, they piloted 3 or 4 different things, and they ended up with Singapore math.
Right.
And so that's, in the world stage, Singapore math is showing the most.
Right.
But again, it's professional development for your
Right,
teachers that
you have to have
needs-
the teachers who can teach it.
you've got to train them how to teach, and they have to understand how math works in patterns, and teach students to recognize patterns. And unless you know that as a teacher, you're not going to be able to give that to your kids. So it's professional development. For example, like multiplying by 5, you take half of the digit. You multiply 8 times 5, you get a 4, 40. Those things. 7 times 5 is 3.5, 35, which is half of 7. Simple patterns like that we don't teach our kids to recognize.
We used to get drilled on that too.
We did.
We used to walk down the hallway and 2 times 2 is 4.
You gotta write it 100 times.
Yeah, 2 times 2 is 4.
Oh, yes.
4 times 2 times 4 is 8.
The
2 times
automaticity
8
that
is
comes with that
16.
is important. If you saw on the national news, the math counts, the National Math Counts finals,
Right.
they had these kids, it was phenomenal. 15 to the 45th minus 25 to the negative 10th, and the kid had it in 2 seconds.
Right.
Because it's pattern recognition.
Right.
It's pattern recognition. It's not that they're brilliant kids, and they interviewed the kids, and they
There's a
said,
whole
this isn't
program
about,
there for it.
this
It's
isn't
really
about
fun
being
to watch.
smart.
Right.
It's about doing the work,
Right.
and doing it over and over and over again until it's out.
It's like if you multiply times 9, everything adds up to 9.
Exactly. So, and teachers are not trained to do that. So
No.
the Mahesh Sharma workshops, he is very good at training teachers to recognize patterns, and when they recognize patterns, they can teach kids patterns.
Mhm.
So, that's what we need.
That's why it's so
Did you say
successful.
spiraling doesn't work?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Remember that?
I do remember that. And
Jeff and
I
I
remember
were
it.
on the board together.
No Child Left
Last
Behind was
week.
everything has to be research-based. And this is based on research, so.
At the
you-
time,
So-
but the differences in the research are really very small. The correlation figures are really very, very small. And at that time, everyday math had the fraction of a correlation to the higher scores. But it was also a very expensive program, so was it the richer districts with the kids who have the advantage, who used everyday math, and therefore
That
got the
skewed the
higher
results.
scores?
Yeah.
You know, but the more research we've done, we've found that the kids aren't learning better by spiraling,
Yeah,
so.
and those teachers were, you know, good teachers.
Yes,
Yeah.
they were good teachers, so,
Yeah.
yeah, we're getting better. Education has never been, like many of the social sciences, an empirical science. We are moving toward empirical science. Our research is actually beginning to produce workable data that we can use to make decisions. This is only 10, 15 years old,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we've got a lot of work to do. Anyway, my babbling, sorry.
All right.
Interesting.
So, anyway, you guys heard mine. I mean, if you think that the only question I had really on this whole list was the chairs. And if you guys think that those chairs are the best chairs that money can buy, and
Well, how long?
I will throw those in as
well, the
part of the total, but
if we
I
buy-
just think it's a little ridiculous.
I mean, the other thing you gotta take a look at is how long is this stuff gonna last?
Right, true.
That is true.
You know, if we, conceptual science books, how long are they gonna last? I mean,
Textbook cycles are 5 years.
okay, 5 years, so 5 years we're gonna be looking at replacing them. The desk chairs, how long are they gonna last? 2 years, 3 years?
No,
They'll
They'll last longer,
But this, I mean, this is part of the thing, is one thing to buy this stuff once, it's another thing to take a look at it and say, okay, we're gonna need to replace this stuff.
That is true.
That's
And,
true,
and that's what we need to build the budget, so we're not doing this
right?
every year, trying to look at our fund balance and trying to figure out
Well,
what
and
we're
so
gonna
we're
buy
not having
out of it.
staff people bring in their own chairs.
No,
That's
it
what
should be-
you got.
that's a no-no, but
Yeah.
that's, we should never allow that.
They did, they bought their own chairs and brought them in,
Yeah, we
because
have
the
to.
chairs that were there were not comfortable for them.
Right, but that's my concern, is that, like the carpet for the modular, that's gonna have to be replaced too.
Frankly, I'm accustomed to about 175 for a chair. I mean, that's for a top quality chair that's gonna last.
Mm.
And who knows, we can go to Staples and next week they'll have a sale on this and such, and it might be the best thing. You're gonna have to decide what your limit is, and they're gonna have to work within your limit.
I
Be
know,
comfortable.
I know, it's just,
Now, is
being
that-
responsible for
is
putting
that-
these numbers,
oh,
and I
sorry.
think is to some extent where what I'm talking about. And the other thing is, people bringing in their own chairs, we have been returning a fund balance to this district of hundreds of thousands of dollars, so there's really no reason that somebody would have had to buy their own chair.
Right.
So something else is going on.
It's
They
They
could
got
have
some
had a
stuff.
$75 chair anyway.
And it's probably a $75 chair.
It's the culture.
You know.
It's the culture,
It's just-
it's the culture of asking and being told no. That is fully embedded, and that culture is hard to break, and that's what I've been working
I've
on.
noticed that on my walk.
Yeah.
Teachers were shocked when you stopped and asked them how things were going and what they needed and,
You looked at the walls and the paint and the facilities and everything.
In my attitude, if it's in the budget, you can spend it.
I agree.
I mean, that's
But
what
they-
the
I don't
budget's
know.
there for.
You know, yeah.
It's a philosophical discussion, but the thing is, the culture has got to change. They have to
Right.
know that they can ask, and if it's reasonable,
Right.
and
Yeah,
it's going to assist with student learning and assist the school process, they're gonna get what they need.
I would like to know that the secretaries, those are the chairs that they're looking for, and I wanna, do you know what I mean? I don't know if that was,
John gave me this packet, I did not ask that
Right,
question.
because they might not be
I can ask
comfortable in
them
that
to go
type
on
of chair.
Staples and pick out a reasonable chair that they think would
Right.
be good for them and bring it
Yeah.
back for the further discussion you'll have next time.
Yeah, just to make sure, because they're the ones that, are sitting in it all day long, so.
To do a test run during lunch. Staples, which I know.
And I still would like to use that frost one to buy that music keyboard. We've got the money there, that's what it's for.
How hard is it to do that? I mean, is it
That I don't know. Most trust funds I've ever been associated with, you just write a
Yes.
letter of request and
Oh,
then they
okay.
send you a check.
Well, yeah, I think we have to have a, yes, that's
You
right.
have
it's
to have
not
a
our-
vote.
Oh, there has to be a hearing.
Yeah, oh,
That's the
here, oh,
public.
for
There
that one, it
does.
does.
Well,
We have to have, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it can be a school board posted meeting
Yeah.
that mentions that we're going to
We'll
vote
just pull
on
it out.
spending money from the trust, so that anybody that would like to come and say
We'll
no.
pull it out and check what
Or
RSA
yes,
is
or-
under.
It's not taxpayer money.
Right.
But I know, but I think the trust requires
set
a
up
hearing,
that
I
way.
think
We'll
I
check- we'll
see
check it
through
out.
the
Yeah,
Right,
that
right,
could
that's
be,
the
It
that
could
could
be, we'll check
definitely.
it out, that's not a
Fine,
problem.
It's easy enough to do.
I mean,
Yeah.
this thing will be here in a week, so,
So you look at it, it is taped.
yeah, that's to keep the
You know,
lamination.
all the time I see in the newspaper, free pianos, people are
I
doing.
know.
Oh, no,
No.
You
no.
don't want those?
No.
Okay, the music teacher says no.
This is
Okay.
not a piano, this
I
is a
know, I
electronic
know.
keyboard.
I know it's not a piano.
Okay, now can we move to approve this, or do we have to wait till the next meeting?
We would feel more comfortable if you waited, because we're still settling on that number.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, and don't forget too, what I guess I forgot to mention, I thought of it actually as we were sitting here and talking about the trust funds. You know, the number you see on page 21, which is 189,642.44. Don't forget, we have to send 10,000 of that to the maintenance trust fund too.
Right.
So it's really 179.
So we
Right,
need
to have
still
that.
some more settling.
Okay.
You know, you still have some questions you need answered. It's great that you're enthusiastic about doing this.
Right.
It's earlier than you've ever done it before, I think.
Yeah, it's
So
usually June 29th.
Yeah, so you have time, and we have time. So that's what we set it up, so that you get it now, end of the month, we should be in a better place.
Well, it'd be nice if we get the purchase orders out and get
The
it
purchase
covered prior to June. end of the
We
year.
are intending
You
to
have to.
have the purchase orders for the school done first week of June. We have to do RFPs on this,
Right.
so we will have to
Most of it,
prepare.
yeah.
And it will be, time for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you said 189, Sue, but the total is 251, right?
Yeah, but that is grant funds. So the only number you should really be looking at is page 21, which is the general fund
What's happening with
funds.
the grant fund? Is it gonna get carried over, some of that money?
They
It's
should,
like
it
200,000,
should. Like I
right?
know that Sarah has talked about carrying her money over. And I believe he has two Title II grants right now. One of them ends in
September
September
30th.
or August 31st.
No, it's September 30th.
Okay,
Yeah.
the other one just began this
And it has-
September,
it's a
so
two-year
it
grant.
will, that one will roll over.
So that's the 100,000 left over, pretty much, is of those things, so some of that, a lot of that money can be
Will roll
rolled over. It's
forward.
not like you haven't, it's not like they let that money sit there and it's going away.
The only one
I
that
don't do
really,
that.
that I know of that.
I know you don't, but you have, you guys just got,
I'll find a
you
way
just
to
jumped
spend
on the.
The only
train.
one that I know of that ends, but it ends, I think, in August, maybe it does end in June, I have to check the date, is the REAP, and we're spending that down there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're
we'll
doing,
spend
the
that
REAP
down,
will
right.
spend.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Title I will go up on August 31st. Title II ends on September 30th.
one of them.
And that's 2 years ago, because it's a 2-year grant. Title I, we're rolling over. I asked for the waiver, got the full waiver for rollover this year, so.
The Title I
There's
is
a big
August
chunk coming.
30th.
August 31st,
Yeah.
31.
end of August.
Right.
Title II-A ends September 30th. And the REAP, I believe you're right, ends June 30th. We'd have to confirm that. But we can get that
That's the
spent.
end of the federal fiscal year.
Yeah, we will make sure that that's gone. We've pretty much covered that this year.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's a small amount, I think John and I met last week, and I think there's like $3,000 left in his Title II that he would lose if we don't
We will, and that
spend
will
it
be
this
spent.
summer, but he's
We've got
looking for
books to
ways
buy.
to spend it.
Can you spend it on the summer program?
I think that particular grant is only for professional
It's
development.
professional development.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's paying for the administrative retreat, it's paying for some other professional development.
I think he was bringing someone in or something.
There's somebody he's bringing in from, that's the
Oh,
7,500.
it's for professional development?
Yes.
Title
Title II
II,
professional
yeah.
development.
Can we use that for STEM training next year?
It can be used for STEM training, and it depends on, it can be used. So I'd love to suffice to say. I don't know what John's plans are, because his professional development days, his early release days, he
Right.
pays for people to come in, to do work on those, and the full days as well, so he may have that.
All right,
But that's also something that we can look at.
it is a board goal.
Absolutely, absolutely, but I'd love to pay with it somebody else's money.
Yeah.
So can I ask
I know what
something
you're
for
talking
the
about,
next
yes. I
meeting?
know what you're doing.
Can you give us, for the next meeting for fiscal year 13-14,
Mhm.
what we budgeted for tuition, like the number of students, the rate we budgeted, what this total came to for how much was budgeted, and then what we actually have spent? Because I wanna know what that remaining balance would have been,
So-
had we not removed money from that account.
So in other words, you wanna know the original budget for tuition and what
Yeah.
we've spent
Right.
to date.
And what
Okay.
I need to know how that is made, what that number's made up of, because when I went back on my old budget book, I couldn't make heads or tails of what they had done to
You mean
build
the
this
50?
budget. like, if you go to line 19,
Yep,
okay, and we had originally budgeted 3,643,341.96. In my budget book, when we first presented this budget, I had 227 students at a certain amount, plus 2 more students at different high schools.
okay.
But no matter how much I tried,
You couldn't get it to tie
it
out.
didn't make sense, because we would have been paying like $60-something thousand to the 2 other students at other high schools, which I know we're only paying about 20,000, so. I
And we
just
have one
couldn't-
agreement too.
Right, but it said 2 agreements.
Right.
It said 2, but anyway, that's why I need to know, or 3, okay, but it said 2. So I'm trying to figure out, and then what do we actually spend? And I think this is what we're gonna actually spend, unless you think that this 873.52, that total encumbrances, if that's gonna be adjusted out.
It's gonna be adjusted one way or another, I can
Right.
tell you that's not gonna be the exact amount.
Right.
But that, I won't have that information until the last day school is passed. Because
Right,
what I
that's
have
okay.
to do, I think I've already told you this, you know, the original bill Sanborn
Mhm.
sent, there was 246 kids, I think, on the bill.
Yeah.
I sat down, realized there were at least 11 students. I
Right.
took it off right away
Right.
on the front end.
Right,
But now those 234 students are not whole, if you will.
mhm,
There are kids that have graduated,
Right.
dropped out
right,
for one
There'll be more
reason or another. I'm
adjustments.
gonna create a per diem rate for them and have to calculate out
Yeah.
for those students.
all
It's
I
gonna
really
take a
care about
while.
right now is, we budgeted this 3,643,341.96 based
How
on,
did you get
I
it?
believe it was 227
Yeah.
kids times whatever the
Rate
GMR
was at the
was
time.
at the time, it would have been the GMR at the time.
That 227 sounds right because I believe in the research that you had me
Yeah.
do for the Sanborn meeting.
Yeah,
That was the last bill for fiscal year 12-13, I think, was 227 kids.
okay, so I wanted that number, and then I wanted to know what we're being charged.
Okay.
And I can see on the enrollment how many, but I'm trying to see what was left in that line.
Okay.
Well,
You know, you transferred
yeah,
51.
we transferred 51,143, but normally there's more of a savings than that, and that's what I'm trying to. Right now, there's
Capture,
like
yeah.
$64,000 in savings,
Mhm.
it looks like, plus a little bit because of the, I think we're gonna adjust that last
You know what
payment.
else I actually, I don't know if this is the forum for it, but I actually kind of discovered when I was doing that analysis for you, it looks as though not last fiscal year, and I built my budget on what was done last fiscal
Mhm.
year, but the prior years, those aids, that the extra money that we paid for the one-on-one aids
Mhm.
was taken out of, line 56, I believe,
Mhm.
which is aid
Oh, yeah.
/ tutor contracted services.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure, maybe that's why that, because that, yeah,
Mhm.
We'll,
that may have something to do with why, because the aids right now are being paid out of the tuition line.
Regular ed?
Yes.
High school tuition line?
Yes.
Oh, they are, okay.
So that's probably
Okay.
why you were used to a larger variance, because
Oh,
those
okay.
were probably previously paid out of line 56.
Right, they were broken down on the
Mhm.
invoice, it said 1,100, 1,200,
Yeah, and that's a
and now
discussion,
it's just coming out of 1,100?
yes.
Oh,
It's either 1,100 or the 1,200 line, but it's not coming out of that aid, it's coming out of tuition, not out of the
Yeah.
aid line.
yeah.
And that's a discussion we'll have to have, whether we wanna start doing it the way it used to be done. Will we pay the aids out of the aid line and not the tuition line?
Right,
Because it comes on the tuition bill, but
right.
it's not really tuition.
So it was budgeted, for this coming year, where was it budgeted?
The way I did it the way it was done in 12-13, where it's in the tuition line. But it's easily extract, you know, we can
Yeah, that's okay. It's
pull it
just-
out
Right now,
at
it's
the
in the,
beginning of the year
it's in
before
the
we.
tuition line, but you're not sure if it's in the special ed tuition line or the regular ed tuition line.
That's correct.
Okay. If
But-
anything, it should be at least in the special ed tuition line,
Yeah,
not the regular, ed, you know what I
correct.
mean? 'Cause
I
it's
do,
special ed.
yes, I agree.
So, anyway, all right, that would be helpful to me. The only reason I want that information is because the budget committee and the taxpayers are very sensitive about what happens with the money that we GMR'd. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't spend it anyway, but it would be nice to know how much of it is, so that when we finish up the year, we can say X number of dollars is still remaining from there that we can return to the taxpayers.
Again, in my looking at it quickly one night, it didn't look like they budgeted with the GMR. I think you and I discovered that. It didn't look like they budgeted the full GMR.
You would never know, believe me, because there were 3 worksheets beyond the budget book that were messed around with and changed and not messed around with in a bad way, just adjusted
Manipulated.
Yeah.
over and over again until we came up with the number we came up with. So,
And that could be the reason why you're not tying out to a real number.
Right.
Because there was some in between.
right,
that-
so what I wanna do now is just know, here's what we budgeted, and here's what we're actually gonna spend, so here's what the
The
difference
difference is.
is left.
Mhm.
That's all I really need to know.
Okay. And I'll do my best, but I mean,
Yeah, with it, yeah, it needs to.
I'll probably have more questions for the next meeting regarding this document you gave us.
this one,
Yeah.
it will be brand new
That-
next time you see it.
2 weeks from now? we can
Yes.
do it? All right.
Brand new right now.
It's kind of hard because,
Yeah.
you know, I just don't even get a chance to look at it,
Okay.
you know.
What I'll do, let's see, the next meeting is the 27th.
If you head out Monday, that's fine.
Actually, you don't usually give us another.
I know, but because,
following.
well,
Yeah, you
I'm
don't.
used
You just
to,
want
and
some.
I don't have, you guys don't have to have it if you don't want to, but I'm used to this time of year doing this every time
Right.
because it
You have to be
changes
close
so
to the
much.
figures.
I'm fine with
Alright.
that.
Yeah,
You have to be close to
As
it.
long as you
But
have-
if you look at this one, Andy, and you have questions, you can bring them.
No,
to
Yes.
us, so.
But
yeah.
yeah, if you send out another, if you send out
And it may be
Monday.
easily explained.
Yeah, I sent it out last Monday.
He went to work
It
this
was, it
morning.
was 10 PM. I did send it out.
Yeah, that's why, yeah, I was in bed,
Yeah, well.
actually.
We'll
So-
try to do
Sitting right
better.
there.
Yeah.
When the dust settles, we should be able to have it under control.
Definitely, yeah, yeah,
Still
yeah.
the dust is
But
up.
I will, my goal is to try to get it to you that Friday.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's just like,
All
Yeah,
right.
it's been that kind of a month.
we had that tuition project.
Oh,
and
we've
it
had a lot of
was
projects.
all
Yeah, a lot of
kinds of
projects.
stuff.
We have, yeah, we have a non-meeting tonight to talk
Yes, I
about
know.
that.
Sure, so we need to move ahead.
Okay, anybody else have any questions on this for right now?
No, I like all ideas.
Alright, so. Old business, Q and A from previous meeting.
I included that in my report.
Right,
That's what's back.
I did see that. Did anybody have any other Q and A
Questions?
from the previous meeting? No?
Yeah, we got 3 minutes.
Okay.
What were the, we were going to discuss questions for the,
Oh, that's later.
that's later.
That's later.
Yep, that's-
It's later in the meeting.
All right.
Yep.
I'm all set.
Okay, action items, accounts payable and payroll manifests. Here's the payroll manifest. Do you have, do you have the manifest, regular ones?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You all right?
I'll sign it, but are there any issues with it before I sign it?
Payroll.
No, everything.
That's the payroll.
Right.
She doesn't know that.
Okay, let's see. Manifest number 14-25 dated 4/11 for $35,590.25. Let's see. Pretty much the majority of that was for provider transportation. Manifest number 14-26 dated 4/25, $85,823.54. Majority is made up for busing again, NRT on that one, and cafe services. And manifest 14-27 dated 5/9, $137,530.28. And the majority of that was out-of-district placements and additional busing. And I think that's about it. So I move to approve. Do I go through each line again on the numbers?
As stated.
As stated?
Second?
Any questions, discussion?
Well,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and the payroll manifest is coming around to you guys.
Okay.
Okay.
Oops.
Foreign language teacher. Here we go. So. So we asked for another schedule, I'm just rereading the page here. Should be submitted in relation to the market. So, okay, we have this, the possible schedule, if we were to put foreign language for 7th and 8th grade, is that right?
It's a very rough schedule.
Right.
It's something that they haven't done, they don't do now, and that is mixing the kids up as they move around. So this is a very new thing that would happen to the 7th and 8th grade staff, and they don't have any idea that this is even being put forward right now. But John threw this together, it's a very rough, things may move, advisory might be moved at different times during the day. But this, it just shows that basically it can be done, but it has to be a full-time teacher to do it. Can't be a part-time teacher.
So one other question that I've written down was, under number 2, offer a foreign language teacher during the school day, the no loss of other class time. How much is that loss from other class time?
It's not, the question was asked, how much time is supposed to be there for every class? For the old minimum standards used to be a 45-minute period, 5 days a week. 225 minutes a week was considered the standard math, English, social studies, science class. That has been changed into 945 hours of instructional time. And we have a lot more than that. So it's a balancing out. What we have there is still more than what the minimum is, so we're okay. It's nice to have, I like to see a science, personally I like to see a science lab period a couple times a week. I like to chunk them, and this is something that I didn't get, but I mentioned there's the possibility that every day is a little different. And we'd have to work that out. But there's adequate time there for every class.
Is this based on, did John reach out to different schools, or is this just what he came up with, or?
At the meeting 2 weeks before tonight, I went back to the administration and I said, give me some alternative schedules, and so that, give me at least one alternative schedule that doesn't cut down on science and social studies significantly. JR went to the staff, they sat down, they put one together, they gave it to me, it was unacceptable to me.
Okay.
They had worked out the schedule in such a manner that it maintained the present system of blocked kids, and it had a half an hour of Spanish or French or whatever it would be 3 times a week. That's not what I was looking for.
No.
So I was really rather confused that that was what was given to me. So I called John in and I said, John, that's not what I wanted, go back and fix it. And about an hour later, he came back with this. So, and this was the day the packet was due. It was Wednesday and Thursday morning. So this is very different from what has been done in the past because of the mixing. It's not unusual, other schools do it that way. You used to have a singular Algebra 1 class, and you'd have Spanish or French, and
Well,
it's
yeah.
differently.
So my big
It works.
My big concern with all this is, I'm not a mention it. I just know I'd love to see foreign language in there. I don't want to vote, yes, I want something, with you and John knowing it's not gonna work or it's gonna harm the school. I mean, I don't know.
It would be
That's what-
change.
Well, change I'm okay with.
And
You're not the one who has to deal with it.
the
You're obviously not an educator and change is okay with you.
There are a lot of pieces to making this decision. There is the perspective of the student, the empathy map. There is the perspective of the staff member. There's the perspective of the administrator, of the board, of the budget committee, of the town, and of course of the parents. So there's a lot of stakeholders in this decision. The question that the board has to wrestle with is where is the balance in making this decision and moving forward into the new strategic plan and everything that you want to get done over the next couple of years, you know?
So did we just wait too long? Honestly, do you think we just wait too long for next year, next school year?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Wait too long to try to do this, I mean, being so close to the end of this year, the end of next year.
It would be something of a rush. Teachers would be rushing to do the schedule at the end of the year. It would definitely benefit kids to have the opportunity to have it. But you haven't addressed the budget committee to talk to them about sneaking in, you know, a position, which has been used, that terminology in the past. But we did cut 2
But
teachers.
I don't see a
So-
difference. We did cut one.
Right, so
We're not adding
there's,
a teacher.
there's,
We're not adding a teacher.
right.
We're really not,
No.
because we're not. So anyway, but
So
sorry.
there's a lot of things you have to think about. John and I talked about this morning, and the two of us are kind of at it hasn't been planned out. It would have to happen relatively quickly. We're at the end of the hiring season for looking for staff, so we would have to take what there is. But it would get it in. We also have the after-school option, which is a possibility as well. And if you look back, the last comment I make is if you look back on the Sanborn, 09, they had 33, they have about 125, 135 kids in a grade level.
So not everyone takes.
Right. So they don't, theirs is entirely elective, it's part of the UA schedule. In 2009, fiscal year 2009 schedule, there were 33 kids in grade 7 and 8 who took foreign language. So since then, it is close to doubled and they built it, that's 6 years they've been building their program. So if we put it in and we having every single kid take it next year, we're gonna have kids who don't wanna take it.
Right.
We're gonna have kids who shouldn't take it because they may not be ready to take it. We haven't addressed the question of what do we do with our student population who really shouldn't be in a foreign language classroom. We don't have an adult to take care of them in an alternative classroom setup.
Right.
So there's a lot of logistics that haven't been addressed. Yes, they could be addressed in a short period of time. Is that how you want to handle it? So,
Why should there ever be a student who shouldn't take foreign language?
because
Special
Curious.
special,
I mean,
you know, special needs students who would be mainstreamed in the regular classrooms, it would be part of their schedule. And they may not be able to, it may not fit a profile for them that works. So there needs to be an alternative for them during that period.
If some kid's struggling in reading, in writing,
Right.
in English, you don't want to throw him into a foreign language. If he hasn't mastered the basics.
There's that, there's
You're
that
not
question,
going
there's
to a foreign
also,
language.
there's also what if a parent wants to opt out?
Right. Right.
You know, so those things are all things that we haven't looked at yet.
Mhm.
We'd have to look at them, we'd have to make them happen quickly.
Right.
But they are part of the equation, they are part of the equation. I mean, when I was a middle school principal, we had a foreign language, and there were students who didn't want to be in there. Didn't matter whether the parents wanted them in there or not. They didn't want to be there, they caused trouble, and that became an issue.
Right.
We had kids that struggled in their regular language classes, in their English language classes, who didn't want to be there. And we had special programs set for special education.
so
kids who were in
what if we, let's say we went a year out, but, you know, like John's schedule in terms of it keeps all the classes, that gives you that one free space there. Could you possibly do a mini elective, you know, could you, let's say not next year, like 14, 15, but the next 15, 16, could you possibly do, you know, give them a choice of a language or maybe a band? Or a study, I mean, maybe that,
If you make a choice between band and foreign language, you're gonna get the kids that wanna be in both.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, it's like making them
Yeah.
make a choice.
That's it,
well, I'm just
not
trying,
the
but you're
best
talking
choice.
about the kids that can't take, shouldn't take it or don't wanna take it, so give them, but if you give them options.
And
that's all.
you certainly can do that with planning, you need to have the staff to do it.
Right.
What about,
Yes, please.
Is it okay if Angela speaks up?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
thank you.
What I'm thinking is that you were talking about this additional targeting that we did to get those students that needed to pass the kneecap testing and so forth. What about if there's students, whether they're special needs or so forth, that wouldn't fit? What about using that time then to work with those students to get them to where
That's-
they need to be?
And that, the problem is the other teachers are teaching classes. They're all teaching math, they're teaching English, they're
One or
teaching
the
social
other.
studies, they're teaching science. We don't have a staff member to do that.
Okay, so then what's lab and RTI for those teachers on the afternoon program when Spanish is being held?
I don't know
And
what lab
advisory.
is.
Okay, because it's
But
lab,
RTI,
RTI.
everybody is teaching.
Okay, I mean, there's
Their
3
prep time is
teachers,
UA.
4 teachers with lab and RTI
I didn't know
every
we
day
had lab.
from 11:30 to, or 12 to 2.
Is it language arts?
Yeah,
LA is language.
I think the teacher in
Oh, that,
RTI
I
is
see, yeah.
math.
And that may
She's
be-
teaching the advanced.
We don't know that. We
Yeah.
need to get that in. I would like to hear that explanation.
Right.
I have a couple things that I would like to say about this. First of all, I don't think that it should be as complicated to add Spanish